As I gazed at my unfinished plate of turkey and mashed potatoes at the opulent oak dining table, I could smell the delicious aroma. The room was filled with roasted herbs and the subtle scent of Jessica's pricey vanilla-scented candles. My stomach, however, remained empty, not due to a lack of food, but because of the oppressive atmosphere. With the burden of shame bearing down on me, Jessica, my wife, reclined in her chair, idly spinning the stem of her wine glass between her fingers with a sly smile, the same sneer she always wore before chopping me down in front of her family. She started speaking, her voice flowing with false affection, because she lived for these moments. "I'm still working on your little program," she said with amusement. That word, amusement, hurt more than it should have. I let out a slow breath, keeping my face impassive. Jessica let out a laugh before sipping her wine. Setting the glass down, she tapped her manicured nails against the table. "You know, honey, I was reading an article the other day," she said. "Apparently, 90% of startups fail within the first year." Her mother, Mrs. Thompson, nodded wisely. "You must be practical," she said. I clenched my teeth as Jessica, ever pragmatic, reminded everyone that I was still employed at an electronics store. It wasn't my dream job, but it paid the bills while I worked on something bigger. Mr. Thompson, Jessica's father, put down his fork. He wiped his mouth with a napkin and, in a tone heavy with disdain, remarked, "There's nothing wrong with working hard, but Jessica shouldn't have to support you while you play around. Men have obligations. A steady job is essential." I tightened, my fist under the table as he waved his hand dismissively, reducing my life's work to a mere hobby project. What he didn't know was that I was paying nearly half of our mortgage and most of our bills. Jessica's real estate job wasn't doing well, so she relied on me, but she never mentioned that. Jessica's brother, Luke, an investment banker with a six-figure salary and an ego to match, chuckled. "Let's be honest, man," he said, cutting into his steak. "You don't even have a degree in computer science, right? What makes you think you can compete with guys who've been coding since they were kids?" Jessica let out a forced laugh. "Come on," she said. "You're going to be a big tech star?" The room erupted in laughter. I ignored it, letting their jeers wash over me, my face remaining impassive. Beneath the table, I tapped my phone screen. A single notification lit up. Orion Systems. Subject, confirmation. 9 a.m. tomorrow. A billion-dollar tech company wanted to meet me. I felt the corners of my lips quiver, but I forced my expression to remain neutral. Instead, I let out a breath and leaned back in my chair, mirroring Jessica's relaxed demeanor. "You're right," I murmured, swirling my wine glass. Jessica raised an eyebrow at my sudden compliance. Her parents nodded and Luke smirked, believing he'd had the final word. They laughed, thinking they had put me in my place. Dinner moved on. Jessica's parents gushed over Luke's latest promotion. I let my presence fade into the background. Forks scraped against a plate. Wine glasses clinked. Across from them sat a man who was about to turn the tables on them all. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight, they saw me as a failure. Tomorrow, they would see me as a man. Their smirks and silent victory gave them the impression that they had won, brother. I was there to witness the error, not to dispute. 5 minutes later, Luke yawned and stretched. "Hey, Jess, did you ever find out his password?" Arms behind his head. Jessica's fingers froze midair, her wine glass halfway to her lips, caught in a dreadful, biting silence. Her whole body tensed in response, but only long enough for me to notice. Jessica blinked and parted her lips as I carefully drained my water bottle. But Luke, who was as stupid as usual, merely chuckled and said, "Oh, man, she was trying," she said. "You were lying about the starting issue, so she asked to see your laptop the other day, just to verify for herself." Jessica's fingers gripped her wine glass tightly. His tone was one of stern caution, but it was too late. He had said enough. let out a deep breath and ran a hand down my face. Jessica put her drink down a bit too forcefully, and I mumbled, "Huh, that's fascinating." Her smile was forced. "Darling, don't be dramatic. I didn't need it." I tilted my head slightly, but she only shrugged and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I wasn't sure why, but I became intrigued. She had spent all night making fun of me, disparaging my efforts, claiming I was wasting my time, but she had attempted to hack into my laptop. Since she was so curious, I laughed a little, without humor. It was funny. Jessica rolled her eyes. "You? Didn't seem curious at dinner. You seem pretty damn sure my app was worthless." "Come on, you're overreacting." She realized she had crossed a boundary. Luke shifted uneasily on the couch, sensing the tension. "I'm leaving now. See you guys later." I barely noticed him as he walked out the door, still focused on Jessica. Nail in the coffin. When Luke's front door clicked shut behind him, Jessica let out a loud sigh. "Are you really upset about—" I took out my phone, examined my security, log, and didn't respond. She blanched for the first time that night when I turned the screen in her direction, 3 unsuccessful login attempts. "You really don't believe in me?" I asked, taking a step closer, speaking quietly. She swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just curious if you were truly capable of what—" I cut in. Then, she averted her gaze, pressing her lips into a thin line. That was all I needed to know. I let the silence speak for itself. Jessica crossed her arms and huffed. "You're being ridiculous. It's not like I—" But I was already leaving. Tomorrow she would understand. When the morning light streamed through the bedroom curtains, illuminating the golden smudges on the bed, Jessica would still be asleep. Her face would be calm, as though she hadn't spent the last night trying to sabotage me, breaking into my laptop, attempting to verify what she refused to believe. As I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at her, the weight of her betrayal settled heavily on me. I had always known Jessica didn't think I was capable. She ridiculed my goals, laughed at my ideas, acted like my visions were nothing more than childish dreams. But this was different. She had actively tried to undermine me. Worse, she had rationalized her actions rather than apologized. Felt like I was the one overreacting. I got up and rolled my shoulders back. Everything changed today. They would all spend the morning acting like nothing had happened. Jessica glanced at me drowsily as I buttoned my shirt. She moaned and flopped back onto the pillows. "Too soon?" she muttered. I didn't reply. She watched me for a while as I reached for my watch, carefully fastening it around my wrist. Her eyes sharpened slightly. "Where are you going?" I grabbed my phone from the bedside table and slipped it into my pocket. "Jessica, good job," I murmured. She scoffed and sat up. "You mean your shift at Teco?" I lied. "Yeah." She grinned and swung her legs off the bed. "Don't be late." "I won't." And I left. An hour later, I stepped into Orion Systems headquarters. The tall glass edifice glinted in the morning sun, my heart pounding in my chest. Inside the lobby, professionals bustled past in sharp suits, heels clicking against polished marble floors. The receptionist smiled warmly and led me to the conference room on the 22nd floor. 5 executives waited for me, seated around a gleaming glass table. The scent of fresh ink and expensive coffee filled the air. Mr. Carter nodded as I entered. "We've been looking forward to this." So had I. I had spent months refining every aspect of my AI-powered inventory system, perfecting every function, ensuring it was flawless. Now they were ready. "We're offering you a 7-figure agreement for full rights to the technology," Mr. Carter said, sliding a contract across the table. I exhaled slowly, staring at the numbers in front of me. More money than I had ever seen. Enough to leave everything behind, Jessica, her parents, even Luke. Despite the uncertainty, I took the pen and signed. I was no longer a retail employee with a side project. I was the founder of a $1 million tech company. By the time I got home, Jessica was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine. The house smelled warm from the roast her mother had made. She turned, grinning. "Long day selling phone chargers?" Smiled back. She had no idea. Later that evening, at her parents' dinner table, the usual smug glances and dismissive laughter filled the air. "How was work today?" her father asked. I took a slow sip of my drink. "Productive," Jessica snorted. "Well, that's a first." I leaned back, watching them all. The moment wouldn't last. Tomorrow, everything would be different. By noon the next day, I received the wire transfer confirmation. $3,850,000. I exhaled, gripping my phone. Tonight, Jessica would realize her mistake. At dinner, she leaned back in her chair, emboldened by her parents' presence. "So what's your big plan?" She smirked. "You mean?" I asked. "Well, you're clearly not leaving your retail job. So what now?" Her father laughed. "Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. Some people just stay where they are." I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. Silence. Heavy. Absolute. Jessica's wine glass halted mid-air. Her father's expression darkened as he read the bolded deposit confirmation. Not a mistake, not a joke. $3,850,000. Luke broke the silence first. "What the hell?" I picked up my drink casually. "Oh, that's from Orion Systems," I said. Jessica's face drained of color. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "Orion Systems?" I stretched lazily. "Yeah, they bought my program." Jessica's hands trembled. That little app she mocked, the one she tried to steal? Now it was worth more than anything she had ever imagined, and for the first time ever, I was the one smirking.